what it's like to break into a cult. They hang out outside of Narcotics Anonymous meetings and prey on the weakest willed. I have seen them hover and wait and come up to the fragile and sick, seeming to have the best of the best intentions. I have followed them back to their house several times. It's more of a compound, an enclave with an elaborate fence, thick steel embedded in concrete, next to spent city-funded project populated with the worst of the people, and I'd watch. At first it was just observing figures in windows, each hooded specter walking with candle as if on vigil, obedient ghosts in fresh linen robes. Eventually they each developed unique personalities through my research. I started to give some of them names, refer to them by their most elaborate characteristics, always hanging outside at the same NA meetings. They get out at 8 p.m. on Tuesdays and 9 p.m. on Wednesdays, watching them and waiting for them to adopt. I followed them to other places as well. Sometimes the recruiters hang out outside of hospitals or the Planned Parenthood buildings. I have watched them descend on the infirm and the homeless as long as they're young. There's no reason to recruit the elderly, for no one will weep once they drink the poisoned Kool-Aid. Young kids buying cigarettes. The beaten and the molested are collected into pockets of the aggressive and bold, and so I sit outside their complex and watch and count and define and predict. I think I understand the way the guards walk the perimeter. I have weeks more work to do. There are half as many boys as there are girls, and from the research I have done, that means that the master of the household has particular tastes. It is entirely possible that it is a she, but statistically highly unlikely. I have frequented the websites which house all of the resident data, and I am certain that somewhere in the code that handles these things it is working itself out and can replicate the truth. I haven't planted myself at the NA meeting because I feel like the recruiters who operate there are the most talented, most likely to identify confidence, and least likely to take me anywhere. So I am hanging out at the train station, watching this devotee hand out white flowers. He is bald and absent. It's fine that I'm looking at him because several others are also, and it also doesn't matter because the people that are really recruiting are moving through the crowd slowly, talking to each new group of young passengers getting on or getting off, and it's really hard to tell who's on the trip and who has no real place to go. I am pretending to be a runaway. It's really easy. I just stay sitting and watching, the devotee handing out white flowers, missing several calls for trains, the recruiters in the station moving closer and closer and sizing me up, so I just try to look lost. I think I am doing well because I don't really know what I'm doing. They usher me out for a smoke. Suddenly I have a new best friend, and he's telling me about all my problems and telling me I should come to this party, and then it's his apartment, and minutes later he describes it as a safe place, and I am absolutely sure that every different name he gives it is referring to the same building I've been watching. My research, my exclusive data, I agree and follow them, my new best friends. The backpack I have with me is full of blankets, so that it looks full when I enter, but if they search me once I'm in, they won't identify me as a threat. But as just a kid trying to keep warm, I'd considered coming armed. Believe me, I hadn't. Didn't seem logical. I am walking upstairs to a door, and inside, intense staircase leads to upper level flanked by boys and girls in robes, the same figures I'd watched through their windows, all of them smiling and welcoming me. Each one held a candle as if holding a vigil. On the side where the girl stood, there sat an angel with red hair and freckles and green eyes and pale, and she looked like a picture that I found on Craigslist of a daughter went missing, promising reward, and now I had found her through all of my research, and she still looked relatively unaffected, so I sat and swallowed the words of the cult. They promised catharsis, and I thought injections were hours or minutes or moments away, but I took a shower in one of their bathrooms and took all their pills and shaved off all my hair, and a moment later I returned to the bathroom and vomited up all the pills in my throat with a sober straight head. I returned to my bedroom and flipped through the book they had left in my tote, and I listened. I counted the steps and remembered every turn I had taken to move from the train station to the house to the foyer to the bathroom to the bedroom where I was all alone. I had been so certain they were bunking, but I had a small closet-like room that was just for me, and I had no idea how they divided the boys and girls for sleeping situations, and there was very little chance of finding the redhead whose parents had promised the $30,000 on Craigslist if anyone in the area could find them their daughter, and now I was in the care of a cult and I had lost all my hair. I thought about crying, but I stood and I took in my surroundings, and all I had was my blankets, and they were not providing much security, so I stood and waited. I listened to footsteps and counted the rhythm and recognized the pattern I had memorized before, so carefully I waited for the perfect opportunity, and my door wasn't locked, which I thought was weird, but it's entirely possible that this was a temporary room I was in where they kept new recruits for their first night or nights before assigning them to a group bunk where the doors certainly were locked. In the hallway, I listened and moved to the staircase, which was just down the hall and then around the corner. But at the edge of the wall of the hallway, I peered and saw the same devotee that I'd seen at the train station handing out white flowers, either making his rounds or heading to take a piss, not even moving in my direction. But I panicked and tried to run back to my room, but I couldn't find it, and was no longer concerned with the parents on Craigslist who had promised a reward for information leading to the return of their daughter who, for some reason, I'd thought I could rescue. I was caught by a zealot while rounding a corner after I had lost track of the rhythm of their watch, and I sincerely explained that I needed a bathroom, and he took me to it and back to the room and asked me if I needed anything else, and after I'd said no, he locked the door. And now I am sitting in a room like a closet and sufficiently threatened and scared for my life. Tomorrow I will certainly be drugged, a bald and obedient ghost, in a fresh linen robe.